Ever wondered how a single assassination could ignite a conflict that engulfed the entire world, claimed millions of lives, and reshaped the modern era? This was World War I, often called the Great War, a cataclysmic conflict that spanned from 1914 to 1918. Its origins were complex, its battles were brutal, and its consequences echo to this day. The roots of World War I were tangled in a web of political tensions, alliances, militarism, and nationalism. By the early 20th century, Europe was divided into two major alliance systems. On one side was the Triple Alliance, consisting of Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. On the other side was the Triple Entente, made up of France, Russia, and the United Kingdom. These alliances were meant to maintain a balance of power, but instead, they created a situation where a local conflict could escalate into a global war. Nationalism also played a significant role. In Austria-Hungary, ethnic tensions simmered among Slavic populations who sought independence. In Serbia, nationalist groups aimed to unify Slavic peoples under one banner. Across Europe, countries were competing fiercely for colonies, resources, and military dominance. Militarism had become entrenched, armies and navies were expanding at unprecedented rates, and the belief that war could be decisive and glorious was widely held among political leaders and military elites. The immediate spark came on June 28, 1914, when Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary was assassinated in Sarajevo by Gavrilo Princip, a Bosnian Serb nationalist. Austria-Hungary, backed by Germany, issued an ultimatum to Serbia, which, despite some concessions, failed to satisfy all demands. Within weeks, declarations of war cascaded across Europe. Russia mobilized to protect Serbia, Germany declared war on Russia and then France, and Britain declared war on Germany. The world had plunged into war. World War I was unlike any conflict before it. Modern industrial technology transformed the battlefield, and traditional tactics often collided with deadly new weapons. Trench warfare became the grim hallmark of the war, stretching across France and Belgium. Soldiers lived in mud-filled trenches, facing disease, vermin, and constant shellfire. Barbed wire, machine guns, poison gas, and heavy artillery made even the simplest advances deadly. Major battles like the Somme and Verdun exemplified the horror. At the Battle of the Somme in 1916, over 1 million men were killed or wounded, yet the territorial gains were minimal. Verdun, fought the same year, symbolized endurance and suffering, as French and German forces engaged in a battle of attrition that left hundreds of thousands dead. Gallipoli, in the Ottoman Empire, showcased the war's global reach and the strategic miscalculations that cost tens of thousands of lives. New technology dramatically changed the scale of destruction. Tanks were introduced for the first time on the battlefield, offering some mobility across no man's land. Airplanes were used for reconnaissance and later for combat, while Zeppelins conducted bombing raids. Submarines, especially German U-boats, threatened maritime trade and brought civilian populations into the war zone. Modern warfare had arrived, and it was merciless. World War I was not confined to Europe. Colonial empires drew soldiers, laborers, and resources from Africa, Asia, and the Pacific. Indian, African, and Caribbean troops fought on behalf of their European rulers, often enduring harsh conditions and discrimination. The Middle East became another theater of war, with British and Ottoman forces clashing across deserts and mountains. The war demonstrated the interconnectedness of the modern world and the human cost of imperial ambitions. Naval warfare played a crucial role, especially in the North Sea and the Atlantic. The British Royal Navy imposed blockades that restricted German imports, while Germany responded with unrestricted submarine warfare, targeting civilian and merchant vessels. The sinking of ships such as the Lusitania inflamed public opinion and ultimately drew neutral nations, including the United States, into the conflict. By the end of the war, the human cost was staggering. An estimated 16 million people had died, with another 20 million wounded. Soldiers faced unimaginable physical and psychological trauma. Trench foot, gas attacks, shell shock, and infections were daily hazards. The sheer scale of casualties reshaped societies and left lasting scars on families, communities, and nations. Civilians were not spared. Food shortages, economic disruption, and the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918 compounded the suffering. Cities were destroyed, economies strained, and entire generations were left questioning the meaning of sacrifice and patriotism. The war also accelerated social changes. Women entered the workforce in unprecedented numbers, labor movements gained momentum, and political revolutions reshaped governments, most notably in Russia. Several battles defined the course of the war. The Battle of the Marne in 1914 halted Germany's advance into France, setting the stage for years of trench warfare. Verdun and the Somme in 1916 highlighted the brutal stalemate and human cost. On the Eastern Front, battles between Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Russia showcased mobility and attrition, ultimately leading to Russia's withdrawal after the 1917 revolution. The entry of the United States in 1917 marked a turning point. American troops, fresh and well-equipped, bolstered exhausted Allied forces. The war gradually shifted in favor of the Allies, as German resources dwindled and internal unrest weakened morale. The final offensives in 1918 forced Germany to seek an armistice. The war officially ended on November 11, 1918, with the signing of the armistice. Yet the peace that followed was fragile. The Treaty of Versailles in 1919 imposed harsh reparations on Germany, redrew national borders, and attempted to prevent future conflicts. Austria-Hungary and the Ottoman Empire dissolved, creating new nations and reshaping the Middle East and Europe. However, the treaty's punitive measures created resentment and economic hardship, contributing to the conditions that would eventually lead to World War II. The League of Nations, designed to maintain global peace, struggled to enforce its principles. Economically, politically, and socially, the war left deep and lasting impacts. World War I also transformed culture. Literature, art, and philosophy reflected disillusionment and trauma. Memorials, remembrance ceremonies, and rituals of mourning became central to national identity, embedding the war deeply into collective memory. The war changed the role of women, accelerated technological innovation, and redefined the concept of total war. Governments expanded their control over economies and populations, using propaganda and rationing to mobilize entire societies. These transformations shaped the modern world, influencing politics, social norms, and international relations for decades. World War I serves as a cautionary tale about human ambition, nationalism, and the dangers of entangled alliances. It demonstrated the destructive potential of modern technology when combined with political tensions. The war also highlighted human resilience and the costs of misjudgment, showing that even the most powerful nations are vulnerable to unforeseen consequences. Even more than a century later, World War I's lessons resonate. Borders were redrawn, empires collapsed, and new ideologies emerged. The Great War reshaped the world in ways that continue to influence international relations, politics, and culture today. Its legacy is a reminder of the fragility of peace and the enduring impact of global conflict. World War I was more than a war, it was a transformative event that altered the course of history. From the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand to the Armistice of 1918, it was a conflict defined by unprecedented human suffering, technological innovation, and global participation. It reshaped nations, societies, and the way we understand modern warfare. By studying the Great War, we gain insight into the complexities of human conflict, the consequences of political miscalculations, and the resilience of societies in the face of unimaginable challenges. World War I reminds us that history is not just a series of dates and battles, it is the story of people, decisions, and events that continue to shape our world today.